Yeah! Get up!
Welcome to the Obstacle Racing Media Podcast with Matt B. Davis.
With over 300 episodes since 2012, Matt has produced the most consistent podcast in OCR.
Each episode, Matt speaks with race directors, athletes, and industry insiders to bring you the most in-depth interviews and conversations in the world of obstacle racing,
adventure runs, and ultra marathons. If you have small children nearby, now is the time to put on some headphones
or send them off to watch Phineas and Ferb, as there are occasionally four-letter words,
which are not bleeps. Now, here is your host.
Now here is your goddamn host.
Now here's your host, fucking Matt B. Davis.
Good day, everyone. Welcome back. It's the Obstacle Racing Media Podcast. I am your host, Matt B. Davis. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about those brand new Spartan shoes that you're hearing so much about. First, let's read a couple of iTunes reviews. Now, this first review, I am almost positive, was left by this gentleman earlier, but he rewrote it, and it's dated May 9th. It's Fuzzy B. And I tried to find another one by him, so he either deleted it, Fuzzy, he either deleted it, or rewrote it, or re-edited it. And I'm not going to go back and find it, but if you remember, if you got one of those memories and you're like, yeah, I remember that exact episode. It said, ORM is getting back to being informative, but is highly biased and poorly executed, unless I read this last week, and I'm just blanking in it. And he gives me 2 stars, and it says, I used to enjoy listening to this podcast, but have grown tired of the poor production quality. Gee, I hope I remember to edit that. It's something you hear at least once a week. An increasingly biased slant to every story he covers, especially anything involving Ryan Woods. This is especially annoying, as Matt harps more and more on Spartan and others to be flawless, as he sees the term, but refuses to hold himself to even a marginally professional standard. I think the show is far more than marginally professional. I think way back in the day, it definitely dipped below professional standard, right? I'd say, yeah, I'm not editing that, and I never would, even if it sounded like shit. And now we don't do that. I think it's far better than marginally. But Fuzzy B, you're entitled to your opinion. And again, I know you left something like this already. Yes, I'm biased towards Ryan Woods. But when did I ever use the word flawless? This is just a confusing interview. This is just a confusing review to me, Fuzzy B. So if you're still listening, Fuzzy, maybe you can message me and we can talk about it. On the other hand, the day before, entertaining real and simply the best by Popcorn and Kittens. I've been running Spartan since 2013, and this is still my go-to podcast and place for OCR info. If you want the real ORC gossip, although I think they meant OCR gossip, and inside, this is the place to be. Matt is honest about himself, races positives and negatives, and his love of the sport. This is the first review I have written for a podcast because, simply, I never think about it. Matt wouldn't have gotten 1,000 stars for all the times I've been inspired by him. He has made me laugh or even think! His voice and stories go with me on my walks with the dog, training runs, car rides, or workouts in the gym. He is the one consistent, all caps, voice in the OCR space. If you only have time for one, this is the one to listen to. I hope he continues to grow his brand and business. Thanks, Matt, for keeping this 42-year-old inspired and entertained. Popcorn and Kittens, thank you. Thank you, thank you. It really means the world to me what you just said. That's exactly what I hope to be. I hope to entertain one on their runs or in their car rides, because that's how podcasts entertain me, the ones that I enjoy listening to. So if you want to announce yourself to me at a race and be like, hey, I was Popcorn and Kittens, or a social media message, you can do that. And if you want to remain anonymous, that's totally fine too. But I'm glad you're listening, and thank you so much. And thank you for listening all these years. So with that, let's get to today's program. Oh, sorry. Let's welcome some Patreon members. The latest Patreon members are Ken, Adam Castro, the one and only Bob Holland, ladies and gentlemen. The one and only photographer Bob Holland, who was so inspired by my taco eating and running video that he decided to become a patron. And Kyle Zingaliski upped his thing. Upped his, what do you call it? Patronage. I wish I was good at the speaking. Did you order a shirt? We made these cool ORM racing shirts by Mudgear, and they sold out. Guys, I had a dozen made, and I thought, well, these will go, relatively quick. We got about 60-something patrons. We sold 20 in no time. And there are more coming, so don't worry, we'll repost that. Speaking of which, we're up to 70 patrons. This is so awesome. So awesome, so awesome, so awesome. So glad you guys are with me in this journey. And if you're not, it's okay. You can be a free listener the rest of time. These episodes will always be free, sponsored by great companies, such as VJ Shoes. Now, this show is about Reebok shoes. Sorry, Spartan. This show is about the new craft shoes. And it also happens to be an episode sponsored by VJ Shoes. And that's just how it goes sometimes. Sometimes I do a show about Tough Mudder that the sponsor is Savage Race. That's just how it goes. So, quick shout out, VJ Shoes. Not a quick shout out, a nice, slow podcast sponsorship. VJ Shoes. You've seen everybody wearing them. I've been wearing them for every mud race. Now, I will try on these. I got to be honest. I got to try on other shoes, right? But these are my current OCR favorite. ORM30 at the checkout for $30 off your pair of shoes. We got the only... Are you looking for a discount somewhere else? Are you the kind of person that's like Googling discount? Well, you're not going to find a bigger one than ours. ORM30 at checkout for $30 off each pair of shoes. They're awesome. You've seen the pros wear them. You've seen me wear them. We got another crazy muddy race coming up. Probably going to see a bunch of them up in Big Bear, where I also will be seeing our good friend, Matt from VJ. Who wears these shoes? John Albin, Ryan Atkins, Lindsay Webster, Johnny Lumalina, Victor Casada, Forrest Bouge. On today's program, we're talking all about the brand new OCR shoes from Spartan and Craft. These have been long awaited. Spartan, as soon as they partnered with Craft, said we're going to make some shoes, and we're getting our first look at them June 1. He tells us they'll be ready and available. You can order them now on the website, but you will also be able to get them at 3 locations June 1st if you're going to any of those races, which he mentions. I really enjoyed this chat. As I said to him on the call, Mike, sometimes people, when you get on these calls with like the marketing person or the corporate, whatever, they're just not great. They're just boring. But he's had a lot of cool jobs, and I think you really like this chat we had, and we'll learn a little bit about him and these new shoes. Away we go.
Yo, we're here.
All right, we're rolling. We're on the air. Mike.
All right.
Have we ever talked before?
I feel like we have. You've got a voice that sounds very familiar.
Well, I'm super famous. You didn't know that?
You look famous. You've definitely got a voice for radio.
Seriously, have we not? How long have you worked for Spartan?
So I've been with Spartan for about a little over a year. I came in March of 2018. I knew Joe from my Reebok days when he had a deal with Reebok, and we got to know each other through that. And he asked me if I could come over and help him with his merchandise empire. And turns out I knew our COO, Jeff Connor, really well, and we kind of hit it off, and a deal was made, and over I came. So it's been fast and furious for the last 14 months or so, but I'm loving it.
So when you were with Reebok, you did some stuff with UFC?
I did, yeah. You did your homework. Yes, I did a lot of work with UFC. We started that deal back in 2014, and I was doing that for about 2 years. Prior to that, I did a little work with the NFL and the NBA deals that we had exclusive deals for. Adidas owns Reebok, so I worked partially for both brands at different times. But I was there for about 20 years, and so I've got a lot of experience in the consumer merchandise segment, and Joe needed somebody to get this thing really kicked off, and so here we are.
Yeah, you've been around, man.
Yeah, I did most of it with one company, over that 20-year time, but I did a lot of different things there, and got to travel to Japan and work on some of the pro licenses and start up new deals like UFC, and work a little bit on footwear, but mostly on apparel over that time. And coming over to Spartan's great because we get involved in everything. I get involved in, I'll work on footwear one day and apparel another day and training equipment after that. And so it's diverse and it's fun. And so far we're loving it.
Who's better to work for, David Stern or Dana White?
Good question. Wow, that's a good one. Well, David Stern's an interesting guy, let me tell you. Very interesting dude. Different behind the scenes than he is in the public persona, I think. But nice guy. I like Dana because Dana is a Boston guy and super down to earth, and he and I hit it off right away. He would feed me, what fighters were coming up that I should look at signing, and we had quite a roster when I was over there. It was pretty cool.
Well, let's talk a little bit because, a very big deal was made over the UFC and the CrossFit deals when they happened. What do you think now that we're, this many years down the line and CrossFit actually finally changed the rule, I guess? What do you think about all that stuff? UFC hasn't, right? They're still only Reebok or no?
Yeah, UFC's got a Reebok deal, just a Reebok deal. CrossFit's a little different. I think because of the whole Nike thing with the Metcon and all that, there's a lot going on with that deal. But they're still with Reebok as well. But the UFC deal is a Reebok deal. It was a 6-year deal from the outset with an option for a couple of years. So they're going to be together for a while. And I think they're good for each other, to be quite honest with you. The UFC wanted to be more of a pro sport, and they needed a big brand to come in and make them look like they had a uniform and look like they were professional. And I think we did a good job getting that off the ground overall. There was a lot of criticism to deal with in that deal and a lot of things going on with the fighters and their pay and all that. But we definitely, I think we handled that to the best of our ability and made some great products in the end that the fighters are super happy to wear. And that deal's gone really well for Reebok. And I had a good piece of that for 2.5 years. And now it's on to the next chapter with Spartan.
Well, we're certainly going to get to these Spartan shoes, but I got you on the line here. You've had an interesting career, and my podcasting career has taught me that if I'm genuinely curious about something, my audience is too. So that's why it's fun to talk about this stuff. I mean, I think the layman's argument with these exclusive deals as well. How can the fighters really grow if unless you're, the biggest names and the biggest stars, you've got to pull sponsorship dollars and you're limiting them in those regards.
Yeah, 100%. It's tough because I think the issue for the fighters is pretty obvious, right? They lost their sponsorship deals in the deal because they had to wear Reebok the week of the fight, all the way leading up to the actual fight itself. And that really took away what for a lot of them was their biggest, earning opportunity. So that was tough. I think what you saw, though, over time is that the top guys make out well in that deal, but I think it's all the other guys that don't. And part of the issue, that, as I look at it, is the UFC shares, obviously, the Reebok deal money, but they don't share the rest of the sponsorship money that's going on. It's the Harley-Davidson deals and the Coors Light and whoever else they have. And for the most part, they don't share the pay-per-view money with the fighters. That's going, and unless you're John Jones, right, or Conor McGregor, 2 fighters that I worked with, and Ronda Rousey was another one on my roster. We had some great people on the roster. But unless you're those top tier fighters, there's no share in any of that. And so it makes it really hard for them to make money. They got to pay their trainers. They got to pay for their gyms. They got to pay for their travel. There's a lot coming at them. And if you fight twice a year and you make $10,000 a fight, how can you live? That's the problem. You need those sponsorship deals. And so that's what happened.
Well, you just gave the case for why they shouldn't do that.
Right. Well, that's why you've seen a lot of people move over to Bellator, right? They're moving over to Bellator because Bellator allows them to have the sponsorship deals still.
But Bellator used to be considered, subpar.
100%, but not anymore. You've seen a lot of these good fighters. A lot of them are past their prime, let's say, but some aren't anymore. The Rory McDonald's, who I worked with Rory quite a bit, he moved over in the middle of his prime to Bellator, and he's not the only one. So I think you'll see more of that.
Are you tight with Ariel Helwani?
I know Ariel very well. Yeah, but I haven't talked to him in a while since I left Reebok over a year ago. But great guy. I was actually on his podcast down in New York and went on the show with Chris Weidman once and talked to him many times. I was on UFC Tonight, and he was there at that time as well. So yeah, we go back a bit. Yeah. All
right. So I'm the Ariel of OCR. Does that help?
I love it. There you go. Let's talk then. I got to know you then because you have all the inside secrets.
Well, listen, I got to be honest with you. On this kind of a call, it can go this way, which is great, or it can be you're a really boring guy who's going to puke up, bullet points to me. And that happens when you talk to guys about product. And so I'm really glad that's not you. And I figured it wouldn't be based on your resume, but you never know. So this is great. You're a real guy. You've got real opinions. I appreciate them. Now, are you going to be a guy that can talk specs, or are you like, if we talk, or are you more just like top level marketing stuff? Because I got questions about shoes that people are going to have?
Yeah, I mean, I know some of it, but I wasn't the guy that was behind the development of the shoe. That was our partner Craft. But I can talk to it. Obviously, I got to know how the shoes work. And I don't know if you got a chance to watch the video yet. That's
no, of course.
Right, it's pretty great, pretty good with Joe. That tells you all you need to know about the shoe right there.
Well, I think the big things that when Reebok launched the shoe, right? And then when Merrell followed shortly afterwards, it was like, hey, let's stick these giant holes on here because they need to drain because we're in water and we're in mud a lot, right?
Yeah.
And as time went on, we found that wasn't necessarily needed because if you got big holes, it means stuff's coming in as well.
Right.
And so the lately brands realize you don't have to do that. You can just make a nice mesh outer that is tough but still drains. So I kind of want to know how you approached drainage as this sort of key OCR component.
Absolutely. So one of the things is, as you know, if you make a mesh shoe and that mesh shoe doesn't have a lot of structure, then it's not going to be all that durable, is it? It's not going to help you in lateral movement. I'm not a shoe dog. I didn't come from, the bowels of Reebok working my way up through the shoe department. I was more on the apparel side. I know enough about shoes from my own wearing and being around a shoe company for 20 years to know enough. And the premise is very simple. If you want to make a durable shoe, usually it's a little heavier. It's got a little bit more engineering in it. It's got a little bit more build. It's got a little bit more cage, right? If you want to make a shoe that's fast, you take that weight out of it. You do more mesh materials, lighter materials, but it doesn't have the structure, and it's probably not as durable. That's generally how it goes. And I know I'm not answering the hydration thing yet, but just basically the construction of the shoe was one where the most important thing that we wanted was a shoe that was durable. And I'll tell you why. Because a lot of people who do OCR, whether it's a Spartan race or any of the others, when they're done with the race, they throw the shoes away. You see it. We used to see piles and piles of shoes at the end of the race, just stacking up like, old tires. And we didn't want that. We're like, that's not fair to our racers. You come to a Spartan race, you spend a lot of money to come do, we have an incredible, event, no doubt about it. But you spend a lot of money to come. You might have spent some money to travel. And you get there, and if you're wearing a pair of our shoes and you have to throw them away at the end of it, what good is that? Are we really taking care of our customers, of our Spartans? And we didn't feel we were. So when we briefed Craft, we said the number one thing we want was we want a shoe that you're not thrown away after one use. We want this thing to be bulletproof. That's literally the word we use, bulletproof, number one. Secondly, you're doing a race, so it's got to be light enough and have enough speed components in it that you can do the race and be, flexible with the shoe. It can get over all kinds of obstacles. It can get through water, all that. Obviously, you had to have that too because it's a race. But one of the things that's unique about Spartan races, and I should say any OCR race really, is that you're going to go through water at some point. You're going through water. And there's nothing worse than jumping into the water and getting out of the water, and now you get wet shoes that you're slogging around in for the next hour or 2 hours. Like you're heavy. You're trying to get up on the monkey bars or get up a rope, and the things are heavy and they're weighing you down. You're hearing the swishing around down there. It's awful. Who the hell wants that? So my thing is, you needed to be able to drain fast. That was what we told Craft. And probably the number 2 component of the shoe was you need to drain the water out quick. It's funny. I saw it this weekend in Boston. I saw a lot of people wearing shoes that probably didn't do that at our race in Boston. It was pouring rain. It was cold. We obviously have water obstacles, but it was just a wet, muddy mess. Saw that in Seattle a couple of weeks back. I mean, we're talking about 6 inches of mud the entire course. So you've got to have shoes that can withstand that. You're right. If you've got big holes in the front, mud can get in, right? So it's got to be set up so that, it's really a way to exit water quickly, but not allow a lot of sediment or mud or water in through those big holes too.
Right. I did notice it is a little bit heavier than some of the other OCR shoes that are out. I haven't worn it yet, so I can't speak to that. I'm just looking at specs on a website. So I think that'll be interesting to hear, especially from the elite racers, what they think about that. And I also have been around long enough to know that I'm sure you made a great shoe, but I also know this is the first try, right? So next year's shoes or the year after, might be different or better or worse in different ways because that's what shoe companies do. But those are the 2 things that jumped out at me. I did want to know, I asked you this question, and I'm really not a shoe guy either, but I think I've sort of maybe kind of become one is asking about lug depth.
Right.
That's a big one in the mud.
Yeah.
Do you know what that is? Because that's not on the site.
Yeah, their lug depth is about 7 millimeters,
Okay.
right? So
Healthy.
7. So it's the same as the drop of the shoe. It's about the same. So the drop in the men's shoe, I think, is 7 millimeters.
Right.
The drop in the women's is 6.5, and then we measured the lugs, and the lugs are the same on both the men's and women's. There's 7.
Okay.
So 7.
Yeah, because 6 to 8 is what they are for most OCR shoes. And so I think that's a nice, healthy. I love big lugs. I'm a guy that's okay with a slightly heavier shoe and big ass lugs. Again, I'm not cutting off fractions of a second of my time in races.
Right.
So I really like those Evo Jaws. Like I'm sure you've seen those. Unfortunately, those do rip easy, like the old Reeboks do. I actually haven't had necessarily problems, but I've seen a lot of people have issues with them. And then the new VJs that people like a lot, nice, big, thick 8 millimeter lugs. So I'm really curious to compare yours. How soon? I'm gonna put this on you, Mike.
Yeah, bring it on.
Not Joe, not the PR guy, Jonathan. How soon can you get me a pair of these shoes to try on?
I'll get you a pair of shoes. The first time they hit the States, we actually aired in about 2,000 units. So we aired them in to get to our races on 6/1, the weekend of June 1st and 2nd. So we have races in Chicago, Fayetteville, and Monterey. So we aired the shoes in. They're coming into LAX, and then we're splitting them off, and we've got like a third of that going to one race, a third to the other, a third to the other. So they will be at the races on 6/1. The rest of our shoes are on a boat, and they probably won't get here till mid-June. So anyone who orders it online, it's a pre-order right now, and they'll get them sometime around mid-June after we get them in, process them, and then ship them out to the customers against all the orders. And by the way, we've got a huge day on e-com. The minute we sent the emails out announcing the shoe, there's been tremendous interest. And, sometimes I wonder if it's, we did the guarantee in the shoe, which we didn't talk about. We did a 1-year warranty. The shoe falls apart if it's damaged, destroyed. We'll let you send the shoe back, and we will replace the shoe with the same shoe. I don't think that's going to happen based on the testing we've done, both through some of our elites and through Joe himself. You can see on the video on our shop site yourself. But yeah, if it does happen, we're going to replace the shoes. So that's a big piece of this.
No, I was definitely going to ask you about that. I know you've been in meetings, so you haven't seen. I actually feature that in the article. I actually put that in the headline. I put Spartan delivers new shoe, gives 1-year guarantee, because I think that's really, especially because people unfortunately had such horrible experiences with Reebok. Which one cracker once said, I don't know how they did it, but every version was worse than the previous, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think by the third, you guys, it was weird. You guys kept coming up with different names, and we did a whole article where we explained them all. And it's confusing. Yeah. You should look it up. I should ask you to compare notes. But either the 2.5s or the 3s were half decent. I don't remember which one. But anyhow, you got a lot of people who said, F you, I'm never buying another Spartan shoe. So the fact that you're doing this, I think, is probably necessary to get.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I actually never thought about it that way, because I wasn't here during the Reebok era for those shoes, and I can't really speak to that as much. But what I can say is that, again, when we briefed Kraft, like, that was my number one thing. Like, I don't want people coming back and saying these are crap. I said, if it's going to be that way, then let's not launch the shoe. Let's wait 2 years till we get it right. If we can't put a shoe out that I feel amazing about getting behind and is super excited about, I don't want to do it. Let's wait till we get it perfect. Joe didn't want us to launch the shoe. Joe DeSena, our founder, was saying, put the pressure on Kraft and said, guys, how quick can you deliver the shoe? But when you do deliver it, I want this thing, again, to be bulletproof. I want this to be the best OCR shoe that's ever been made. That's literally what he said to him. And I want it to be priced in a place where people aren't, shelling out $200 for the shoe either. I want you to make me a great shoe at a great price. It's not going to fall apart, that we can market, and we can even give a guarantee if we have to. And so that's what we're doing. We're going to stand behind it.
Let's back up a little bit. You said June 1st, they're available at those 3 locations.
Right.
So nobody else is getting advanced pair?
Nobody.
You're not going to send one to Runner's World, for example?
No, nobody.
Send one to those guys. You better send me one. That's what I'm saying.
I'm going to have to peel a pair off for you on June 1st.
That's what I'm saying, because my audience is going to go nuts that they want to hear. And I wrote what I wrote, but people want to, if I can make a video and show people, that's what gets people really, really excited.
I'm going to write it down right now. What size are you? What do you got?
Do they run? Okay, here's the question. Yeah. Some shoes run super narrow. Would you say these are in that category or not in that category?
I feel like they run now, but to be honest with you, they're really, unless you tighten up the lace system, it's got a speed lace system. Unless you tighten up really tight, they're a little loose on the sides unless you really tighten it up.
All right, then I'll go with regular size, which is an 11. I can email you afterwards my address and all that fun stuff. And that's another one that people seem to get hung up with. I like speed laces. Some people hate them, and again, that's just your mileage may vary, your choices, your taste may vary. I'm a fan. I like to never have to look down during the race because, oh shit, my shoe's untied. Whether that's a street race or an obstacle race. So I love speed laces, and they washes out easy. Like some people they get stuck, but if you wash them, they're unstuck.
Exactly. Yeah, we built it so that it's got a little tab in there, so you can tuck it in. Obviously, you got to tuck it in. You'll be tripping over your own feet. But yeah, I think they did a really good job with the lace system. Honestly, the craft guys, I got to give them a lot of credit. They hired a guy from Nike, and Kraft decided we're going to get real serious about shoes. And so this was probably one of his first big projects, because we came at him hard. I was like, Eric Sounds his name. I said, Eric, don't you give me a shoe that's crap, man. I'm a new guy in the block here in OCR, and I can't come out with a thud. So yeah, we're getting behind the shoe. He's done a great job. They're super open. Like literally, the way we built the shoes is simple. We delivered the first prototypes to our Tahoe World Championships last year. We got them on like 3 of our elite pros and said, hey, go beat the crap out of these for the next like 3 or 4 hours and tell us how they do. And they did. They went out, they beat the crap out of them, went up and down the hill and the mountain, and came back the next day. They were like, hey, these are really good. Literally what they said is these are already way better than the Reebok shoes. That's verbatim what was told to us. And we said, wow, that's great. That's a good base. But tell us what isn't good. We want to hear what's not good about them right now. And so they went through it, a little bit heavy, they get wet, they get a little bit heavy. The good news is they said they moved the water out quick. So we took all the comments that they were giving us, went back to Kraft, and Kraft was open on everything. They said, okay, we're going to fix it. And so we've been tweaking the shoe since last September. It was about 2 months ago that we finally said, okay, the shoes are ready. Let's go. And we went into production, and the shoes are actually on the boat right now or in the air right now on the way. So they were really good to work with and really open and really open to criticism, which is not always the case. You work with a lot of these big brands, and they don't want to hear the criticism. They're like, our shoe's great. And the craft guys aren't like that. They're like, yep, tell us everything that's wrong about it. We're going to fix it. And I think that's why we're doing the guarantee. The way I look at it is, if people are coming back and returning the shoes for whatever reason, they bring them back. Now I know what the fail points are. If there are fail points in the shoe, by them being returned like that, now I'm going to know exactly what they are, and we're going to fix that too. But honestly, I don't think we're going to have a lot of that.
All right, I'm going to ask you another question.
Mm-hmm.
These Ultra Kings were launched this year, which are basically, literally just nothing new. They're a 1.5, the King MTs, which people like. They're like in the top 5 favorites probably of OCR shoes. But it seemed like, well, if the craft shoes are coming right behind these, why are we doing these? I think these were launched in Jacksonville, right? Like the first race of the year. So basically they're around for like 4 months. Is there a reason that we needed to do that?
No, so here's the deal with us with Ultra. So we're working on a deal with Ultra to be,
Is that how you say it, by the way? It's not Ultra, it's Ultra.
Yeah, it's Ultra. Everybody says it a little different, but they're a great brand, and everybody has an opinion on them. But they're well known. I think most people love the shoes. They've got obviously the wide toe box. They're a very different shoe than the craft shoe we built. Also, we look at them as every bit as much as a trail shoe. So we're looking to position them as our official trail.
Oh, for the trail brand. Got it.
Yeah, because we started our trail races, which are doing really well. So they're going to be our official trail shoe. We think those shoes work great for the trail. Huge following for those shoes, as you know better than I do. But we've worked with those guys. They're easy to work with as well. We decided, hey, we're going to have this shoe over here for trail. But when we built this RD Pro with Kraft, we literally built that shoe for a Spartan race. It's built for a Spartan race. So you get the little side lugs on there, which you'll see when I send you a pair of shoes. And that was put on there to climb rope. The high drain, right, the drainage ports, we've got 2 on each side, was built to go through the water, specifically for the water in an OCR race. The way we built the lug system on the bottom and at differing angles was to be able to get across different terrain without getting like rocks caught in there. Everything we did in the shoe was built and was based on comments that we're getting back from the racers or from ourselves, from Joe, on what was going to work or not work doing an OCR competitive race trying to get over, under, and around obstacles, and then also hitting a trail, which, by the way, you do a tough trail. You do in Tahoe, I mean, you're going to face every kind of surface when you're going up that mountain. So when we think about these shoes, it's to be able to get across any kind of terrain that you encounter and any kind of obstacle, specifically obstacle. And that's what makes the shoe different from my standpoint. It was literally built with a Spartan race in mind.
So they're $140 on the website plus shipping. They'll be available at the races. Will they be, I don't know, in stores?
Good question. Great question. So we start with the exclusive here at Spartan on shop.com and at our races. Absolutely. Big exclusive. Longer term. We're probably going to get them out to retail longer term. Maybe not right away. We'll allow Craft to go out and sell some of these in at wholesale to retailers. And we have actually gotten a lot of interest from retailers that are looking to potentially bring these in. And we'll see. We want to pick the right retailer, the right partners. And if the shoes hold up like we think we do, over these first few months going into our big summer season races, we'll have a big story to go and tell a lot of these retail partners. I would say, though, honestly, I'd look probably to early next year before it really hits retail. I'm trying to hold it off so that we can work out any potential kinks we've got, and also build our story before we really unleash it on the world. Plus,
you lose more margin.
Exactly, we do lose a lot of margin like that.
I can say you're from New England, right?
Oh yeah, I'm a Boston guy through and through. Sorry to tell all your listeners that Red Sox fan, Celtics fan, Patriots. Sorry guys.
So I was born in Brockton, Mass.
Nice.
And then I lived in East Boston in the late 90s. Where were you in the late 90s?
Late 90s. Well, good question. I had just started at Reebok, actually. So I was living in the Boston area. I was living in Watertown, Mass.
Right.
Not far from you. Where were you going to that pizza place in Tarpio's or whatever it's called?
Tarpio's. Is it still there? It's still there, right?
Still there, man. That place is it's legendary.
Right. I lived like not even 2 minutes. I used to walk to that Maverick station every day on my way to crappy temp jobs.
Well, you got a better job now. It looks like you're doing all right.
I have a much better job, but late 90s Matt was very confused, and I had a lot of crappy jobs downtown Boston.
Well, man, you're from the mean streets of Brockton, to the mean streets of East Boston.
Right.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
Now I have a cushy job here in Atlanta.
In Atlanta, exactly.
And if you ask Joe, I only work 4 hours a week.
Well, that's where we all want to get to, don't we?
Right.
Well, it's funny, I was saying this to someone earlier today, when I drive into work or I take the train, but when I'm heading into work, it doesn't feel like a job at Spartan. I love it. It's a lot of great people, super passionate about what we do. And it has never felt like a job to me. It's didn't in my last, all my former gigs either, but it definitely doesn't here. It's a really, really cool team. Joe's great to work for. He's a hard driver. Guy's a maniac.
He's a hard charger.
He's a hard charger, and he's a maniac, but he's a good guy to work for. You know why? Because he's got to be one of the most passionate CEOs who exists in any business anyway. It's just so all about it. He literally texts me 10 times a day about anything related to merch. He's just all over it. And he's always got ideas. So you want somebody like that, So
look at your resume, bro. You got DeSena, you got Dana White. I mean, you've worked for some great dudes.
David Stern,
David
Stern. We had Taglia Brew at the NFL. Where I was,
I love that guy.
Yeah, really good guy. Actually, met him a few times. Really nice guy. So
Goodell, not so much.
Roger's got some work to do. Yeah, he's got some work to do. Tough. Not a huge Roger fan right now. He put my boy Brady down, and then Kraft down. He's on my bad boy list.
All right, so. Will you be at anything anytime soon? You going to Big Bear or Austin?
Yeah, well, I'm going to head out to Dolomites, which is where we're having our European World Championships in Italy, end of June. That'll be the next international race I go to. I'm trying to figure out the U.S. schedule right now. We all go to Tahoe every year, so I'll be there in September for sure. I'll probably go to Aspen this year in August. We've got a Boston race also in August, and I'll hit that. And I kind of want to hit Wrigley Field. We're in Wrigley Field for the first time.
We're doing Wrigley Field?
Yeah, they moved that to towards the end of the year, so pretty excited about that one.
Well, Fenway is in November. We just had a Western Mass Boston race. When's another one?
Yeah, there's one in August. Same location, a little bigger. We're going to have a super there, not just a sprint. So this was 2 days of the sprint. We'll go back in August and we'll have a super race on the Saturday and then another sprint on the Sunday.
All right. Well, listen, dude, I hope to see you sooner than Tahoe. This was great for two guys who didn't know each other at all, right?
Exactly. Awesome.
Great to have you on, Mike. Great to meet you. Hope to see you at a race soon. You can look for those shoes June 1st at a race near you, and you can pre-order them now. Hey, everybody, I'm going to be in Big Bear this weekend, so you know what that means. That means social media updates by me during. That means great interviews afterwards. It means a lot of great content coming to you from Spartan Big Bear. We also will have some stuff from the first Toughest of the year, Toughest East in Philly. We're working on getting some people there now. I know of a couple people that are running the race, and they'll get me some coverage, but I need some during the race. Are you racing this weekend? Sorry, are you volunteering and or pitting? Are you good with social media? Hit me up. We can use your help this weekend at Philly Toughest. Josh and I will bring you a new show as we always do every Thursday, Obstacle Discourse with Davis and Chase. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Have a great week. I got to run.